Cheers. Welcome to another pub chat. And today I'm in the brilliant the George at Wanstead. And one of the reasons I really want to come and do a pub chat here, and by the way, I've got a load of questions that people have sent me to talk on talking points, which have been really good ones. One of the reasons I wanted to come here was because this pub is under threat. I don't know what the future of this pub is. Apparently it's going to close soon. It's a Spoons, but the freehold apparently is owned by Alan Sugar. Correct me if I'm wrong on that in the comments, but that's what I read. And Spoons are pulling out of the lease, and so I don't know what they're going to do in future. It will stop being a Spoons for sure, and I don't even know if it's going to continue to be a pub, which would be tragic. I love this pub. It's one of my favourite pubs. I'll show you some footage of it as well. But it's the day of the England match, and I'm going to do that thing, by the way, where I rip my crisps open. It's the day of the England match. I'm just recording this. I think now it's about 3:30, so I'm going to record this and upload it. After the match. So if you watch that match, this might be a way to commiserate. It could be a way to celebrate. It could be a way to, let me know what you think in the comments about the match if you watched it. If not, I look forward to. Anyway, we'll have a good chat in the comments as well as actually in the pub chat now. And by the way, I'm drinking a pint of Adnams Ghost Ship, which I love. And many of you will know I love Southwold and I love their beer, so it's a perfect combo, really. Straight in. This is from some of these are from Patreon. My wonderful supporters on Patreon. Some from YouTube, including my YouTube members. Paul says, "I would love to know how the book sales are going. Any more events coming up?" That's literally the first question I got asked. It's not me plugging the book. The book, Welcome to New London: Journeys and Encounters in the Post-Olympic City. Sales have gone really well. They've slowed down obviously this year, but in the first 3 months of last year, I hugely exceeded my expectations. I set a modest target and we went through that in the first couple of weeks. So after that, everything was a bonus. And what's interesting is I self-published it, and the first 3 months I sold far more books than I did when I published this other London with HarperCollins. So obviously yourselves are a big part of that. I didn't have the YouTube following that I had. I have now. I didn't have that 13 years ago, but yeah, it's gone really well, Paul. Any more events coming up? Yes, there is a talk coming up near Phillybrook. The last pub chat was outside a wonderful venue called Phillybrook, and I'm doing a talk about the Phillybrook and the lost rivers of Leytonstone and Walthamstow, and the lost rivers of Waltham Forest, basically, at the Phillybrook on the 8th of July as part of the Leytonstone Arts Trail. I don't have a link. I'll try and put one in the comments if I find it. But if you go to Leytonstone Arts Trail, 8th of July, Phillybrook. It's a Monday. I'm looking forward to that. Thanks for that, Paul. John says, is there any one county in the M25? I've had a drink with John. I think John knows the answer to this question. Is there any one county in the M25 more prone to entitled landowners blocking public footpaths? Essex over Surrey, say. That's really interesting. I'm going to adjust my mic slightly. Yeah, Essex is the worst. Essex is like I love walking in Essex, by the way. You'll see a playlist on here of Essex walks. I love it. That's why, in a way, it irks me. But when you go out for a field walk across Essex, you're going to have to deal with closed footpaths, redirected footpaths, overgrown footpaths, angry dogs coming at you through fences, along footpath. It's a series of fortified enclosures walking through the South Essex countryside. North Essex is a bit different, in my experience. South Essex, yeah, it's like a series of fortified enclosures that you have to negotiate your way through. It's really different when you go over to the other side of it. When you go to Buckinghamshire and Hertfordshire, it's noticeably different. You just don't really encounter it on anywhere near the same scale. It's interesting. I guess, in my mind as well, that goes back to the heritage of the area, right? It's an area where there were, it's the East Saxons, and they were invaded a lot more by the Danes. Same with Kent as well. I think they've still got that Saxon kind of belligerence almost that comes from also that defensive mentality. When you're being raided all the time by these angry Vikings, then it's going to somehow change your mentality and change the landscape. I think maybe that's where it comes from, whereas where I grew up in Buckinghamshire, they're very much more settled, stable population. Also a lot more difficult for people to penetrate by water. You have the Thames, but after that you've got a load of hills. deeply, densely wooded hills. That's why there were all these kind of heretics and kind of, not bandits, but these radicals and stuff hid out in that area or found their home in that area, because they couldn't really get to them as easy. So yeah, that's the answer. Did you ever get to the Canal Museum? Not yet, John. I intend to do it. I had a beautifully kind offer from the Canal Museum to go out on one of their canal boats and have a visit there, and I fully intend to take up that really generous and kind offer, hopefully in the next month. Do you feel the rising sun this summer has left many paths completely overgrown? That's interesting. Yeah, a lot of paths are really overgrown, and I think it's because we had a lot of rain and then a lot of sun, and it's really, yeah, definitely more overgrown. I'm chatting so much that I'm not actually drinking my beer. It's quite funny. I just took the kids to, my kids, 18 and 21, I just took them to Marrakesh in Morocco for 5 days, and we got back very late Friday night. And what was funny is, one of the things I kept thinking about was thinking about doing exactly this, sitting in the spoons. Not sitting in the Red Lion or a nice coming to sit in the spoons. Not even this spoons, which is a really lovely spoons, but like the walnut tree, sitting in the walnut tree, drinking beer and eating crisps. And we sat on a balcony of this cafe. A lot of the cafes in Marrakesh are rooftop cafes. We sat there. It's a really nice sort of place, having, I don't know, whether we're having mint tea or lovely fresh lemonade, and talking about the quality of the wings at Spoons and what was the best Spoons meal. Kid you not, you can take the boy out of East London, but you can't take the East London out of the boy. You can take the boy out of Spoons, but you can't take the Spoons out of the boy. So it's really good to be here. I'm not usually a daytime drinker, but I wanted to record this before the football. The football kicks off at 5 o'clock. And annoyingly, I didn't bring my glasses with me, and they're showing football in here. Spoons didn't normally show football, I thought, but they are, and I haven't got my glasses. So I'm going to have to record this and go home to watch the footy. Anyway. Hazel says, I'd love to hear more about the old tradition, such as Knollys Rose, which I think is pronounced Knollys Rose. Will you be exploring more of these? Most of you now will be slightly bemused by that. I did post some pictures on the members. Oh no, it was for YouTube members actually. But yeah, Knollys Rose. So I talked about this in a video for YouTube members and for patrons. I was invited, like amazingly invited, to be part of or to kind of witness the Knollys Rose ceremony, which is an incredible ceremony. And I think what I'm going to do, rather than talk about it all now, I did shoot a little bit of footage, so I'd like to work it into a City of London video. But it came off the back of a walk I did, I don't know if you remember, like I think it was about March, April, and I walked along the Lortbourne. The video I think is called The Original Lost River, or The First Lost River of London. And it was a river that ran along the eastern kind of part of the Roman wall and then cut down and went down Seething Lane and made its confluence with the Thames at Water Lane. And it was culverted sometime, they're not entirely sure, but sometime after 1381 anyways. By the end of the 1400s I think it had been buried. And so I did that walk, and it was a fantastic walk, and I went through Seething Lane Gardens, and when I was there, before I'd gone out, I'd looked up and I'd come across this ceremony called the Knollys Rose ceremony. And the reason it was significant to me was that I was looking for documented evidence of the river, and one of the documented bits of evidence for there's a river running down Seething Lane was the building of a bridge over the river, but without permission from the Lord Mayor of London, for which Lady Constance Knollys was fined the price of one rose cut from her rose garden, which is why she built the bridge to connect her house to her rose garden. And the tradition carried on, I think, till the 1700s or 17th century, 16th century. It disappeared and it was revived about 100 years ago. And the company of Lighterman and Waterman deliver a rose to the Lord Mayor of London. I went along. I've kind of talked about it now, but I'll talk about it more. So I went along, and it was stunning. And I remember I was sitting in the Red Lion when I received the email, because somebody from the company of Lighterman and Waterman, I'm grateful forever to you, mentioned it to the clerk, and the clerk invited me along as a guest, and it was a stunning day. Fascinating company. It's opened up a whole other world to me, a world that I was kind of aware of, but until you're in it, you don't know this. The world of the companies of the City of London, the guilds of the City of London. I sat next to someone at lunch from the Fletchers Guild, a previous master of the Fletchers Guild. You know, like what I was like, what do Fletchers do? They make arrows. And they've got an incredibly long history, and of course they were incredibly important in the Middle Ages. And everyone else there was either a freeman of the City of London, well, not either or, but usually freeman of the City of London, a member of another of the city companies or liveries or livery companies. And yeah, it was unbelievably fascinating. And just doing the walk around, I spoke to a few other people. One of the guys had been the former Lord Chancellor to the Lord Mayor of London, something like that. I can't remember his name, but I think he does do guided walks, City Guild guided walks, and he pointed out a few things to me along the way that I'd never knew about, and it's an unbelievably fascinating world. I don't know anything about it. That's the key point. I don't know anything about it. And the ceremonies, a lot of these ceremonies have either continued or been revived. There was one that the butchers have to present a boar's head to the Lord Mayor. So you can imagine you become Lord Mayor of London, you might not know about this stuff, and then suddenly every day someone's bringing you a strange object, either on a cushion, on a chopping board. What is it today? I got a boar's head yesterday, a rose the day before. What's coming next? A bread roll, a pot of ashes. It was, I wanted to explore it more. So maybe that would be the series I start after the City of London churches is done. I might have to do something on that. But it's lovely to have been a guest of the Waterman, and they've invited me to the Doggett's Coat and Badge race, which I hope to be able to do. But my niece is in a play at the Orange Tree Theatre in Richmond. Orange Tree Theatre in Richmond, I think it's called Speedo. There you go, plug for Parker LePayne's play. So I think we've got tickets that day to go and see my niece. I need to double check that. But definitely we'll be exploring more of the ancient traditions of the City of London, like the Knollys Rose Festival. And I will include that footage somewhere in a video in the city soon. Linda Sue, I love this question. Imagine the magical walking elf. Just imagine the magical walking elf. Forget anything else, just imagine. Said to you, I'll cover all your expenses for lodging and food and bug spray, that's lovely, for a 3-day walk. Where in the UK might you choose to spend those 3 days? I think it would be, it's 3 days, that's quite long. I think it would be the Ridgeway. I don't know if I could do the Ridgeway in 3 days. That's 25 miles a day, probably slightly more, it's 26 miles a day I think. But the Ridgeway. Yeah, from Ivanhoe Beacon down to Avebury. Is it Avebury? Yeah, I think it is Avebury. That's the 3-day walk. Linda Sue, we don't usually need the bug spray in the UK. It's not in the southern bit anyway. Scotland, yeah. But the bug spray might be, because you might be thinking I said Hadrian's Wall or something like that. That would be a good walk. David says, I don't know the answer to this question. An observation, so if anyone does know the answer to this question, pop it in. I mean, you could Google it, right, I guess. An observation from a recent pub outing that I had with my old pals last week. Remembering fondly our old running route that took us past St Mary's, Battersea, St Mary's, Putney, and we got onto the history and significance of both churches. It was then brought up that the church in the grounds of Lambeth Palace is also St Mary's, and that there is also Riverside St Mary's at Rotherhithe. Any thoughts on why a number of prominent South Bank churches would have the same name? We couldn't come up with anything. I don't know. I actually don't know. My feeling is that there would have been a lot of St Mary's once upon a time. Before the Reformation, and it's a hangover from that, but that's just a wild guess. Whether there's a relationship with St Mary's and the water, I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't know. Yeah, so if anyone knows, I'd love to hear the answer in the comments. Just check I'm still filming. When I do this, I kind of do live in dread that it hasn't recorded. It's going to be a bit longer. Already this is longer than usual, so it's going to be a bit of a longer one. Look how much I've not eaten a crisp. Walker's cheese and onion. Okay, the best cheese and onion. You get fancy crisps, but you can't beat Walker's cheese and onion. I also have a really weird allergy to salt and vinegar. When I say weird, it's weird because, checking the mic, it's weird because it manifests itself with my eyelids sweating uncomfortably. I think it must be to do with the cheap vinegar kind of supplement they use, or flavouring. I don't know. Walker's cheese and onion spoons have recently. They used to do kettle chips, and now they do Walker's cheese and onion, which is great. Mike has asked a really long question, which you'll have to forgive me for not reading out the whole thing, but it's about Iain Sinclair's book, Pariah Genius, and he finished it, and he made, it's really good. Mike, I think I'm going to have to write your answer, because here's the thing, right? When I do like an event with an author, I read quite slowly. I think I like to savour a book, I reread bits, and I like to have it as a companion over a period of time. And I hadn't finished Pariah Genius before I did the chat with Iain Sinclair at the Wanstead Tap, or indeed at, when we showed the Alan Moore film at Swedenborg. And Iain brought it, I told Iain, and he brought it up, and he goes, well, you won't understand. By the way, I've never finished a book before I've done a talk with an author. And it never, one of the reasons in the end I don't put myself under that pressure is it never makes a difference. You know, as long as you have an understanding of the book and the content, and you don't try to, in fact it helps, because, you know, there's more to ask about, because you have more questions because you haven't read it all yet. But Iain brought it up. He's going, well, sorry, you don't really understand the book because you've not finished it. So I was like, oh yes, decent point. And so Mike's gone, I finished Pariah Genius today, Iain Sinclair's Pariah Genius. Interested to hear what you thought of it in the end. I can't really, I'm going to reserve judgment, Mike, because I haven't finished it. I'm loving it. It's one of my favourite Iain Sinclair books. And it is a book about Soho, nominally, but it's also an amazing character study, and it's very inventive in the way Iain's written it. And one of the reasons I love Iain as an author is he just keeps setting new standards, he keeps moving, he doesn't stand still, and he keeps creating great work. He's 81, and his energy and his inventiveness is incredible. The language in this book is brilliant. It's just a brilliant book. Yes, London and Soho in the 50s is kind of the setting. John Deacon, this kind of very strange character, is the principal kind of character in the book, but Iain didn't have a lot to work with, so he had to kind of bring in the biographies and the backstories of the people that Deacon photographed. He was a photographer and he photographed amazing people, so their stories, which are a lot more well documented. He was famous for his association with Francis Bacon, the painter. But you got people like Colin McInnes, who I've read. He was a great London author, writing about Absolute Beginners is what he's famous for, and there's a bunch of others. He really writes about West London well. Those books are incredible documents, novels. But Deacon photographed McInnes, who talks about McInnes, and a whole host of other characters. And it is that world of Soho 50s is the kind of hook that makes people interested, but it's more than that. It's also a lot of it's about Wapping as well, when those people moved east into Wapping and Limehouse. It's an amazing book. That's what I feel about. I put it down because, same old story. I started reading Mrs. Dalloway. I'd never read Virginia Woolf before, and I was invited to do an event at Hatchard's, and I kind of accepted it, thinking it was about walking in Bloomsbury and London, which it was, but I didn't realise until quite close to the event, like 2 weeks before, that it was actually on Dalloway Day, which is a day they celebrate because the book is set in June in London, and it's a great London book. No one's ever recommended this to me, by the way, so I'm going to recommend it to all of you. This is a great book. Number one, it's a great book. It's also a great London book, and it's a great book about walking and London, and it's actually really kind of psychogeographical. It's really kind of deep topographical about the rhythm of a city, the things that are working in a city. It's a fantastic book, and Virginia Woolf is now, and I haven't finished this one either. So I moved on to Mrs. Dalloway before, it was actually last Saturday, it was a week ago, and I had to sit in Hatchard's, packed audience, members of the Virginia Woolf Society, So I had to front it out and say I'd never read Virginia Woolf before. I haven't even finished the book, but I love it. And that's why I didn't finish Pariah Genius, because I went on to this. So I'm going to finish this, go back to Pariah Genius. Checking the mic. John says, any more visits to the continent or North America in the works? The continent, yeah, I mean, I'll have a holiday. Oh, but actually, I've said that. There's a possible I was going to say work visit. Visit to the continent to make a video. Yeah, I guess it's work. But I don't want to say too much about it because it's with other people. It's via other people. So, but there will be a video on here if we do it. That might happen this year. That might happen. I can't even say the country, because if I say the country, you'll guess what it is, or you'll guess the link. So that might happen this year. I've got a short holiday with the wife, but it's not going to be a YouTube video. North America, I don't know, because I used to go to North America. I've only been to North America for leisure once, and that was on my honeymoon. We went to New York. Amazing. And then I had a period of time, quite a short period of time, from like 2008 to 2011. So it was actually 2008, 9, 10, 11, it was like a 4-year period where I went there. I went there a lot in 2008 and a bit in 2009, I think. Anyway, I went, quite a few times. It was nearly always, with a couple of notable exceptions, to New York and LA, always for work. And then once to Montreal. I had a week in Montreal, which was interesting, and then once to Toronto, but it was Casino Rama, so it's actually not in Toronto, it's like a 2-hour drive out of Toronto. And then I went to Fairfield, Iowa for work, which was a strange experience. The Patreon and YouTube members, I shared a video from that time in Fairfield, Iowa in February. Fascinating. But I haven't been back to North America since 2011, I think, end of December 2011. It was the last time I was there. I've not been back. So I don't know. I mean, I'd like to, definitely like to. But you know, I went to Marrakesh with the kids. That was the first time I've been to Africa. So I feel like, but it'd be good to go there with the kids. LA is an interesting place because I enjoyed my trips to LA. But would I go there if it wasn't for work? And I kind of feel because people used to pay for me to go. I feel like, would I pay to go to LA? I'm not so sure. Although I've got a few places there. I love the bookshop Book Soup. Any of you familiar with LA? I love that bookshop. I always went there. I had a breakfast place I used to go to every morning for my breakfast. I'm trying to remember what it was. A French place on Melrose, on Melrose Avenue. It was a great little French place, and I used to go to Book Soup. Yeah, there were two things, and walking in Laurel Canyon was fantastic. But I don't know, would I go back? Maybe. There's a lot. I didn't do hardly any of the tourist things, so that feels like unfinished business. New York's an amazing city, but I've been about, I don't know how many times I've been to New York now, 5 maybe. So again, barely done it. I did a lot of tourist stuff with my wife, and I'd always try and squeeze something in on the work trips in New York. A bit easier to do there, but not so easy. But yeah, the Met was amazing, obviously. Yeah, Central Park, all those kind of things were great. I love New York. New York's a great city. It's a lot like London. I don't know if people say that enough. I always say Manhattan, I should qualify it. Manhattan, I think, for me, in my experience of travels, Manhattan is the foreign city that is most like London. When you spend a little bit of time there, it starts to feel very familiar, I think. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Now on to comments from YouTube. Dave, have you ever revisited any of your old walks and done them the reverse way and discovered something new? What's your favourite tube station? Yes, I have done. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I mean, I discover new things every time you do the walk. The Phillybrook walk, which I love to do, I've done that in both directions and it's different. And my Epping Forest walks, I often do them different ways, and they're very different. They're main things. The walk I used to do to and from work every day when I lived at the Angel and worked in the South Bank, that was always different. Many. There's a puddle of beer on the table, which I think is from my glass. Look, I barely touched this, and the football's going to probably start. Favourite tube station has to be Gants Hill, right? Gants Hill's got to be the most beautiful tube station on the network. Controversial opinion, discuss. The Jago Hazard fans and Jeff Marshall fans in here will be ripping into it. What's been your best walk this year so far and why? A couple of people have asked me that. I thought I knew Black Path. The Black Path was amazing. In fact, it was the first walk of the year that I filmed. Loved that walk. That was an amazing walk. Still stays with me. I also loved the Lortbourne walk as well, the Lost River walk through the city, but those two were my favourites. The walk to the most eastern point in Greater London was great. I really enjoyed that, but the Black Path had something special about it. Also because it was January, it was dark and cold, really cold that day, yeah. Someone's asked me about the Hugenots, and they've said their surname's Grew, and their great-grandfather was a Huguenot from Bethnal Green, silk weaver. They go back to refugees from Rouen, and maybe Normans. I made a video around the Liberty of Norton Folgate where I talk about the Hugenots. Off the top of my head, I don't know a great deal, I can't remember it. It's one of the reasons actually I kind of like the idea of maybe making fewer walks to give me more time to digest the ones I've done, because I'm always just moving on to the next thing. But if you look at that walk around Norton Folgate, I talk about the Hugenots, and also I made a video around Somerstown because there were Hugenots in Somerstown, just near King's Cross as well. So, but in both of those videos, you'll see information about Hugenots. Do you do a lot of research about the areas you walk? How long does it take you? It varies. It varies. Sometimes I do, sometimes, but for a video, you don't want too much information in your head. I mean, like, if I've got 3 pages of notes, that's all right. If I end up with more than 3 pages of notes for a walk, it's too much. It gets in the way. So you need enough to talk, have something to talk about, and also to fuel the curiosity, to kind of ignite your curiosity, but not so much that it gets in the way of your curiosity, so you feel like you know the answers before you've even looked. So it varies. Most of it would, at most, it would be a day. A couple of them, like the Black Path and a few others, I did spend longer on, and I have done walks so I spent longer on them, but usually it's about a day. A day's prep is what I allow. Sometimes it's only half a day, but half a day to a day, yeah, it's usually a day's prep. And then a lot of research then comes after the walk, which is often the best research. What Gordon S. Maxwell calls the journey in the land of books that follows a walk. It's quite quiet in here today. I thought there'd be a lot more people having lunch, but there's not. I mean, you know, it's a good hubbub, but if you live locally and you've not been here, or even if you have been here, if you come to visit Wanstead Park, come to this pub because there's loads of photos of Wanstead Park in here. Also, old pictures of Wanstead Park. I'll try and show you a few, but I might not be able to do a lot of cutaways. I hope you understand that if you walk around a pub flashing your phone, I'm filming on my phone in the pub for a bit of discretion, but even so, people, you know, they just come out for a drink, right? So forgive me if there's not a lot of footage of the pub in here. Well, I've lost my way. Keith. The position of today's London was not the Romans' first choice. This was further west along the Thames, but by today's Westminster. Due to shallow water there, it was not deemed okay for boats. So London was moved eastwards. Please walk along that area, including Edgware Road, one of the Roman roads. Take care. Great idea, Keith. Yes, basically. And also, that's kind of Mrs. Dalloway's London as well. Not Edgware Road, but you know. I love the light railways and Thameslink much more than the tube. What do you think, and how do you find public transport in London in general? It gives me a good opportunity to talk about this because being here now, Wanstead at the George, opposite Wanstead tube station, the Central Line, and it's on the Central Line. The Central Line this year has been terrible. Like the frequency of the Central Line now, sometimes you can wait up to 10 to 12 minutes for a Central Line train. People that don't live in London will go, what's wrong with that? You're a Londoner, if you live on the Central Line, that's weird. Apart from anything else, it's just wrong. Like the Central Line would be, the maximum would be 3 to 5 minutes. It's more than double that now. And it's really noticeable. In fact, actually, sometimes in the day, if you're heading east out here, you might have to wait 20 minutes. It's not unheard of anymore. It's bizarre. The Elizabeth line is much more frequent. I really love the Elizabeth line. So I've heard various things. I mean, TfL have said that it's to do with old rolling stock on the Central Line. The stock needs a lot of repairs, there's a lot of graffiti, just broken trains. I don't really know if that's credible because I know that it was proposed years ago, about 6 or 7 years ago, that they were going to start using what they call predictive maintenance, where they know when a part is going to wear out before it does, so they can replace it before it breaks down, so that actually your maintenance is continuous, but the trains don't break down because you know what's going to happen. Well, it certainly reduces that. I don't know if TfL ever fully implemented that, but I know it's certainly something that they were trialling or using. But that's where we are. Apparently there's a new Central Line train that's coming into service that's late. But the service on the Central Line is woeful now, and it's been all year. So what's going on, TfL? What's happening? Also, I know some of you are real transport enthusiasts. Have you heard anything? Apparently they're going to close one of the tube lines. It can't be the Central Line. But I did wonder if, because they think, oh, you got the Elizabeth line that runs through here, but obviously it doesn't run through, you know what I mean, it takes a different route beyond Stratford. From Stratford to Paddington, fair enough, but east of Stratford, it's a completely different route. So Yeah, that's my moan. Other than that, London Transport's great. What's your best gig memory, favourite album when you were younger? I still think one of the best gigs I ever went to was Ultra Vivid Scene at the Borderline, and it must have been like in 1993. They were amazing. It's not the answer anyone really expects, but that was fantastic. It tends to be smaller gigs, and you see people in small venues. That was a small gig. They're a big venue band, they were then. Also, I talked about this before, the Roller Coaster tour. That was 4 bands that rotated the headline: My Bloody Valentine, Blur, Jesus and Mary Chain, and Dinosaur Jr. And that was, I saw that at Brixton Academy. The amount of people I've run into that were at that gig is amazing. It was all went to that tour at different. It's a fantastic tour. I think that was 92. 92 or 93. Again, that was a good time for gigs for me. I'm just going to do a couple more of these, and the ones that don't answer, I will either. I don't think I'll do another video. But what tends to happen is people put more questions in the comments. I'm just going to. So I could do another chatty video, although. You want to see me out walking, don't you, really? Also, look, I've only drunk half a pint of beer. I think I've recorded something like 40 minutes of video. And again, it's just after 4 o'clock now. If I had another one of these, I'd be nodding off during the football, because I have a feeling England are not going to be the most thrilling team in this tournament. Maybe they are. Maybe I'm being harsh. I don't want to be one of those people. I've got a question for you guys, actually. What I'd love to know is... I'm keen to know what is the most supported football club amongst my viewers. What do you think? I was thinking about it this morning when I came out. I think it is I think it's West Ham. I think that'd be by far and away the most. And then I think the Orient, because where I live. And then I think it's probably Tottenham. And then Arsenal, because of the Islington link. Tottenham because North East London. A lot of people around Walthamstow support Tottenham. Harry Kane, of course. Local lad, and then Tottenham, Arsenal, and then I think it's Wycombe Wanderers is my link there, and Norwich City. I think I've got a lot of Norwich City supporters here, because since I made that video in Norwich, I have a lot of viewers in Norwich now who watch the videos, or Aston Villa, because that's the other city I have a lot of viewers in. And I have a feeling that there's a few Liverpool fans who picked up on the fact I'm a Liverpool fan. And I think it would go out West Ham, Orient, Tottenham, Arsenal, Wycombe Wanderers, Norwich City, Liverpool, Aston Villa. I've reversed Liverpool and Aston Villa. Maybe Birmingham City. Maybe. Ironically, Wycombe's first home game of the season is against Birmingham City. That's amazing. That's where Jude Bellingham started his career. Think about that. Jude Bellingham of Real Madrid, England star, be playing today. Might actually started on again. He's an amazing player. A little bit he turned down Liverpool for Real Madrid, but you know, yeah, Birmingham City. If he'd stayed at Birmingham City, Jude Bellingham would be playing at Adams Park in August. Think about that. Jude Bellingham playing at the ground of Tony Bodger Horseman, my dad's cousin. Choke, I need to drink some beer. Also, I'm realising that the team news would have come out. I want to see the England lineup. I love this. It's not a question. Someone just said detectorists and beer. Yes, detectorists and beer. I love the detectorists. That's a walk I need to do. Some of these are really good. What does it take to be a good Londoner? What do you think defines you most as a Londoner? Thanks. I remember when I first came to London as an 18-year-old to study at City London Polytechnic. There were a couple of lads there actually who I became mates with, who one of them, his dad was a black cab driver, and he was originally from Islington and he lived in Walthamstow. He'd moved to Walthamstow, and I remember going to his house and it felt like the outer reaches of the universe. Matt. There's no way that Matt the drummer watches these videos, but if he does, Matt, I often think about you. I remember Matt said, and also there was another guy, Simon Simcox, there you go, I remember that's the name I remember well. He was from Camden, I think, Simon. And I remember they both had the same thing for them. And it's mentioned this when I first came to London as an 18-year-old, and they were like, to be a good Londoner, you've got to know London. You've got to really know all of it. And you'll never know all of it. And I remember they both said the same thing, you'll never know all of it, but you've got to try. And that's how they judged a good Londoner. Someone who went to all the, not just their own little manor, they went all over the city and tried to learn all of London. And I think I took that to heart early on, and I was like, because I didn't have kind of like geographical allegiances here, because I wasn't from here, I'd grown up in Buckinghamshire, I could not feel a particular loyalty to my manor, if you like, and explore. And I think that, but other people I've met throughout the years, that's the thing. That's the thing and the conversations I have with people when they come up to talk to me and stuff. They're passionate. That's the thing about Londoners. They are passionate about their city. They're passionate about it, and they want to know about it, and they're fascinated by it. And I think that is one of the great strengths of London and being a good Londoner. And I think that's a great point to end on. I'm going to go home to watch football because I haven't got my glasses. So thank you so much for joining me for a pint. I'm going to finish my pint of Ghost Ship, eat the rest of my crisps. I've barely touched my crisps. Yeah, I'd love to hear about the football question I've asked you down there. And yeah, thanks for your support. There'll be a walk very soon, hopefully next week, hopefully next Sunday. But if not, it's because I'm working on something that's going to take a bit longer to edit. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers. What are you drinking today? What are you drinking with the football? What did you think about the football? By the way, when I say what you're drinking, your answer might be chamomile tea. Dave Binns, who you'll see in the video, when we go to the pub with Dave would drink coffee. So Dave's got a really good opinion on how good the coffee is in various pubs. Unlimited refills and spoons. Anyway, take care. Also, if you know anything about the future of this pub, would love to hear. The George at Wanstead, please don't let it close. Tim Martin, Spoons, please don't let this pub close. Keep it, come on. Why would you want to close the George at Wanstead? It's madness. And also, what's going on with the Central Line? I'm rambling now. Time for the football. Cheers. Take care.